The roses arrived on Christmas Eve. I stared at the crimson petals bleeding color against the white snow gathered on my apartment's fire escape, my breath fogging the window as December wind rattled the frame. 24 red roses. I didn't need to read the card to know who sent them. Marcus always sent 24, never one more, never one less. Even now, 6 months after I'd walked away from his lies, his cheating, his empty promises, he still thought flowers could fix everything. My fingers trembled as I pulled my cardigan tighter around my shoulders. The fabric was thin, worn at the elbows, but it was all I had. The heating in my building worked when it felt like it, which meant most nights I slept in layers, my breath visible even under the covers. This was my life now, a fourth-floor walk-up in a neighborhood where sirens sang lullabies and the smell of garbage mixed with salt from the corner bodega. I was invisible here, just another tired woman in a city full of them. The knock at my door made me jump. "Delivery!" a voice called. I frowned. I hadn't ordered anything, couldn't afford to. My waitressing job at Luminosa, the kind of restaurant where I'd never be able to afford a single appetizer, barely covered rent, and the medical bills still trickling in from my mother's funeral 3 months ago. Christmas gifts weren't in my budget, not even for myself. I opened the door to find a man in a black suit holding a massive bouquet. Not roses this time, white orchids, delicate and expensive, wrapped in silver paper that caught the hallway's flickering fluorescent light. "Sophia Chen?" he asked. Yes, but I didn't order. They're paid for. Merry Christmas." He thrust them into my arms and disappeared down the stairs before I could protest. The card was small, cream-colored, expensive, no name, just an address. Luminosa, tomorrow. 6 p.m. Wear something beautiful. My stomach nodded. Marcus didn't send orchids. He didn't know about Luminosa. I'd started working there after we broke up, desperate for tips that could keep me afloat. And he certainly didn't write notes like this, all command and mystery. I should have thrown them away, should have ignored the whole thing, but I didn't. Luminosa smelled like old money and new secrets. I'd been working there for 2 months, long enough to learn the rhythm of white tablecloths and crystal wine glasses, the particular way the wealthy expected their water refilled before they even noticed it was low. Long enough to become invisible again, just hands that carried plates, a smile that appeared on command, a body that moved through the space without disturbing the atmosphere. Christmas Day was always busy. Families who paid someone else to cook their turkey. Couples who wanted romance wrapped in a $300 prix-fixe menu. I moved between tables in my white blouse and black slacks, my feet aching in the cheap flats that squeaked against marble floors. I hadn't worn something beautiful. I didn't own something beautiful. At 5:45, Marco, the floor manager, pulled me aside. "Table 7, VIP reservation. You're assigned." My heart stuttered. "Me? But I usually don't." "Owner's request. Don't screw it up." Table 7 sat in the back corner, the most private spot in the restaurant, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. Snow was starting to fall again, fat flakes that caught the amber light from the street lamps below. The table was set for 2, candles already lit, a bottle of wine I couldn't pronounce already breathing beside empty crystal. I approached with water, my hands steady through sheer force of will. That's when I saw him. He sat with his back to the wall, always the wall, I would learn later. His presence filling the space in a way that had nothing to do with physical size. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and controlled power. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, the kind that cost more than my yearly rent. A watch gleamed at his wrist, catching candlelight. Everything about him screamed danger wrapped in sophistication. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. Dark, assessing, absolutely focused on me like I was the only person in the entire restaurant, in the entire city, in the entire world. "Ms. Chen." His voice was quiet, barely above a murmur, but it carried weight, authority, the kind of voice that didn't need to rise to be obeyed. "Please sit." I'm working. I can't." "You can." Not a request. A fact. 2 men in similar dark suits stood near the entrance, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Another was by the kitchen door. Security. The kind of security that meant this man wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous. I don't understand, I whispered, still standing, my water pitcher clutched like a shield. I don't know you. Dante Moretti. He gestured to the chair across from him. And you're wrong. I know you, Sophia. I've known about you for 3 months. The world tilted slightly. 3 months. Since my mother's funeral. Since I'd stood in the rain watching them lower her casket into the ground. Alone because Marcus had been too busy with his new girlfriend to show up. The flowers were an invitation. You came. The ghost of a smile touched his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good. I came to work. You came because you're curious, because something in you recognized the call. He poured wine into both glasses, the movement precise and controlled. Your ex-boyfriend sent you roses today. It wasn't a question. My blood went cold. How do you... I know many things, Sophia. I know Marcus Chen has been trying to win you back for months. I know he's a gambler who owes significant debts to dangerous people. I know he's the reason you're working 2 jobs. His fingers drummed once against the table, the only sign of emotion. I know he's a fool. You've been watching me. Horror and something else, something I didn't want to name, crept up my spine. Protecting you. From what? From him. From the consequences of his debts, from a life that would have destroyed you. He lifted his wine glass, studying me over the rim. Your mother worked for my family once. Did you know that? The room spun. What? 25 years ago. She was a secretary for my father's import business. She left when she got pregnant with you. Wanted a different life. My father always respected that choice. His expression darkened. When she got sick, when the bills became too much, she should have come to us. We take care of our own. We're not yours. Aren't you? He set down his glass. Who do you think paid for her final month in hospice care? Who made sure she had morphine when the pain got too bad? Who ensured you weren't bankrupted by medical bills? My throat closed. The mysterious benefactor, the anonymous payment that had cleared my mother's final expenses. I'd spent months wondering, grateful but confused. Why? I breathed. Because she was family once. Because you are her daughter. Because... He stopped, something flickering across his features. Because when I saw your photograph and her belongings, I knew I would do anything to keep you safe. This was insane. This was dangerous. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But I sat down. I can't accept this. Any of this. I don't even know you. You will. He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of mine. I'm a patient man, Sophia, but I'm also possessive of what's mine. I'm not... The restaurant door burst open. Marcus stumbled in, his face flushed, his eyes wild. He looked wrong, desperate and angry, and nothing like the charming man I'd once loved. 2 of Dante's security moved immediately, but Marcus was already shouting. Sophia! What the hell are you doing? He lurched toward our table, and I could smell alcohol on him from 6 feet away. You're with him? Do you know who he is? Dante didn't move, didn't even look at Marcus. His eyes stayed locked on mine, dark and absolutely calm. Marcus, leave. You're drunk. He's a criminal, a goddamn mafia boss. Marcus's voice cracked. I saw the flowers he sent. I saw... Sophia, please. I love you. Come home with me. Not him. Anyone but him. Security had him now, hands firm on his arms, pulling him back toward the door, but the damage was done. Every eye in the restaurant was on us. Marco was rushing over, apologizing, stammering. Dante finally looked at Marcus. Just one look, cold and final as a grave closing. If you ever send her flowers again, he said, voice still quiet, still controlled, I will cut off the hands that held them. If you ever speak to her again, I will take your tongue. If you even think of her... His smile was terrifying in its gentleness. I will make you forget you ever existed. Do we understand each other? Marcus went white, nodded. Let security drag him out. The restaurant fell silent. Dante turned back to me, and his expression softened, barely. Just a fraction, but enough that I could see something almost human underneath the monster. I apologize. That wasn't how I wanted this evening to go. He stood, buttoning his jacket. You're upset. Understandably. My driver will take you home. I'm working. Marco has already been compensated for your shift. You're free to go. He pulled out a card, placed it on the table. When you're ready to hear the truth about Marcus, about the debts he owes and the people he sold information to, call me. When you're ready to understand why I exploded with jealousy at the sight of his pathetic roses, his jaw tightened. Call me. I don't understand any of this. You will, Sophia. Because like it or not, you're already mine. You were mine the moment I saw your photograph. You were mine the moment I decided you would never be invisible again. He leaned down, and I caught his scent. Cedar and gunpowder and something dark I couldn't name. And I protect what's mine, always. He walked away, his security closing around him like a dark tide. I sat alone at table 7, surrounded by expensive wine and unanswered questions, holding a business card that felt like a detonator in my shaking hands. Outside, snow continued to fall, and somewhere in the city, Marcus's roses were already dying. I didn't call. For 3 days, I carried Dante Moretti's card in my pocket like a ticking bomb, feeling its weight every time I moved. I went to work at the diner where I picked up morning shifts, served coffee to construction workers and cab drivers who barely looked at me, and pretended my hands weren't shaking. I avoided Luminosa, called in sick, let Marco's irritated voicemails pile up unanswered. But I couldn't avoid the black SUV that appeared outside my building. It was there when I left for my morning shift on the 28th, there when I came home that afternoon, arms full of discount groceries, there at midnight when I couldn't sleep and stood at my window, watching snow accumulate on windshields and fire escapes. The driver never got out, never approached, just watched. Protecting you, Dante had said. The words circled my mind like vultures. On the 29th, I broke. I pulled out the card, cream-colored, expensive stock, just a phone number embossed in black, and dialed before I could lose my nerve. He answered on the first ring, Sophia. Not a question. He'd been waiting. The car outside my building is making sure you're safe. It's making me feel like a prisoner. Silence. Then, would you prefer to feel unsafe? I'd prefer to understand what's happening. My voice cracked. I was standing in my kitchen, such as it was. A hot plate, a mini fridge, a sink that dripped. You said Marcus owes debts. You said he sold information. What does that mean? What does any of this have to do with me? Not over the phone. Have dinner with me tonight. I'm working. No, you're not. You haven't been to Luminosa in 3 days. Of course he knew. My driver will pick you up at 7. We'll talk somewhere private. I don't think... Sophia. His voice dropped, became almost gentle, dangerous in a completely different way. I'm trying to do this right, trying to give you choice, space, time, but there are people who know Marcus talked to you Christmas night, people who know you matter to me. Every moment you're unprotected is a moment I can't breathe properly. So please, the word sounded foreign in his mouth. Have dinner with me. Let me explain. Then decide if you want to walk away. Something in his voice, that raw edge of genuine fear, made my decision. Okay, 7, he exhaled. Thank you. The line went dead. I stared at my closet for an hour, at the handful of clothes I owned that weren't work uniforms or pajamas, finally settled on the only dress I had. Black, simple, bought for my mother's funeral. It felt like a bad omen, wearing death to dinner with a monster. But when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back had color in her cheeks, had eyes that looked alert instead of exhausted, had something that almost resembled hope flickering beneath the fear. I looked like someone who mattered. The SUV arrived at exactly 7. The driver, older, graying, professional, opened the door without a word. The interior smelled like leather and danger. We drove through the city as evening fell, snow turning everything soft and false under streetlights. We didn't go to a restaurant. We went to a building I'd seen on postcards, a historic brownstone in the kind of neighborhood where doormen wore white gloves and dogs had professional walkers. The SUV pulled into an underground garage, and suddenly we were in an elevator with marble floors and a security guard who nodded to my driver like they were old friends. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, making the lights below look like fallen stars. The furniture was all clean lines and dark leather, expensive art on walls, a fireplace burning real wood. It was beautiful and cold and absolutely nothing like anywhere I'd ever been. Dante stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, staring out at the snow. He turned when I entered, and something in his expression shifted, softened and sharpened at the same time. You wore black. It's all I had that wasn't... I stopped. Swallowed. It was for my mother's funeral, I know. He crossed to me, and I forced myself not to step back. It's beautiful on you. Everything is beautiful on you, but I want to see you in colors, Sophia. Red, gold, sapphire blue. His hand rose, stopped inches from my face. I want to see you in things that make you feel alive instead of invisible. You don't know me well enough to know what makes me feel alive. Then let me learn. He gestured to the dining table, already set with food I could smell from here. Garlic, wine, fresh bread. Sit, eat, ask me anything. I sat because my legs were shaking. Watched as he poured wine, served food with his own hands instead of calling staff. The intimacy of it was more terrifying than his security guards. Marcus, I said finally. Tell me about Marcus. Dante's jaw tightened. He set down his fork with careful precision. Marcus Chen is a gambling addict, has been for 5 years. He started small, poker games, sports betting. But addiction doesn't stay small. He pulled out a folder from somewhere, slid it across the table. He owes $200,000 to a loan shark named Vincent Rossi, another 100 to various underground casinos. He's been late on payments for 8 months. I opened the folder with numb fingers. Bank statements, betting slips, photos of Marcus entering buildings I didn't recognize. When you were together, Dante continued, voice carefully neutral, he used your paychecks to cover his debts, forged your signature on credit card applications, took out a loan in your name. The room spun. What? You didn't know. Not a question. His expression darkened. Of course you didn't. You trusted him. My throat closed. I knew we were always broke, knew he borrowed money sometimes. But he said it was for his mother's treatments. His mother is healthy and living in Miami. Dante's voice could have cut glass. He lied about everything, Sophia. And when you left him, when his source of income disappeared, he got desperate. The information you mentioned, he started selling secrets to Rossi. Names of my business associates, shipment schedules, anything he could learn from friends who worked in the docks, the warehouses. Dante leaned back, studying me. 3 months ago, he sold information that led to a raid on one of my legitimate businesses. 3 good men were arrested. 2 of them had families. Horror crawled up my spine. I didn't know. I know you didn't, because I investigated you thoroughly before I ever sent those orchids. His eyes pinned me. You're innocent in this, but Marcus made you a target the moment he mentioned your name to Rossi. The moment he suggested you might know things, might be useful. I don't know anything. They don't care. You're my weakness now. Marcus saw how I looked at you Christmas night. So did everyone else in that restaurant. He stood, paced to the window. The moment I showed interest, you became a weapon someone could use against me. I couldn't breathe. So what? I'm supposed to hide? Live in fear? Let you keep guards on me forever? He turned, and the look in his eyes made my heart stop. You're supposed to let me protect you properly. Not from a distance. Not with just a car and a driver. He crossed back to me, knelt beside my chair so we were eye level. I want you here, Sophia, in my home. In my life, where I can see you, keep you safe, ensure nothing ever touches you. That's insane. That's love. The word dropped like a stone, or the beginning of it. The obsession that started when I saw your photograph and realized you had your mother's eyes. The jealousy that nearly made me kill Marcus when I saw his roses on your fire escape. The absolute certainty that you belong with me. Not struggling in a freezing apartment, not invisible and exhausted and alone. His hand finally touched me, fingers gentle on my jaw, tilting my face toward his. I'm not a good man, Sophia. I've done things that would horrify you, hurt people, killed people who threatened my family. I live in a world where violence is currency and trust is earned in blood. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. But I would never hurt you. Would burn the entire city down before I let anyone make you feel small again. I should have been terrified, should have run. Instead, I felt tears burning my eyes. You don't even know me, I whispered. I know you work 2 jobs to honor your mother's memory. I know you read poetry on your breaks and hide the books in your apron. I know you cry silently so your neighbors don't hear, and you haven't bought yourself anything that wasn't strictly necessary in over a year. His voice roughened. I know you're stronger than you think and braver than you believe and so goddamn beautiful it makes me forget how to breathe. Dante. The explosion shattered the windows. Glass erupted inward. A wave of glittering death. Dante's body slammed into mine, taking me to the ground, covering me completely as shards rained down. I felt the impact of his weight, smelled blood and gunpowder, heard shouting from somewhere far away. Then silence, except for my ragged breathing and his. Don't move. His voice in my ear, harsh and commanding. Stay exactly where you are. I felt him shift, felt the weight of something cold and metal being pulled from beneath his jacket. A gun. He had a gun, and I was underneath him and the windows were gone and... Sophia. Look at me. Fingers on my chin, forcing my gaze to his. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were absolutely clear, absolutely focused. You're safe. I've got you. Do you understand? I nodded. Couldn't speak. Security flooded the room, the driver, others I hadn't seen, all armed, all moving with military precision. Someone was checking the windows, another on a phone, a third bringing a black jacket that Dante wrapped around my shoulders. Rossi? Dante asked, standing, pulling me with him. Sniper from the building across. Marco took him down. Alive? Yes, sir. Dante's smile was terrible. Good. He turned to me, and the monster was fully visible now, the man who killed people, who ruled through fear, who had just calmly discussed murder while blood dripped into his eye. I need to handle this, but you're not leaving my sight, not now, not ever. I can't, this isn't, they just tried to kill you, Sophia. Tried to blow out my windows and end you because Marcus sold your name, and Rossi decided you were a message he could send me. His hands framed my face, and despite everything, they were gentle. Do you understand now? This isn't about what you want or what's reasonable. This is about survival, yours and mine. Someone tried to kill me. The thought wouldn't process. I was a waitress, a nobody, and someone had just tried to murder me like I was something that mattered. Come. Dante pulled me toward a door I hadn't noticed. Safe room, reinforced. You'll stay there until I've eliminated this threat. Eliminated. You mean killed. Yes. No apology. No hesitation. Rossi and everyone who helped him plan this. I will find them all, and I will make examples of them. Because you are mine now, Sophia, whether you agreed to it or not, and I protect what's mine. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like. Steel walls, monitors showing every angle of the building, weapons I tried not to look at. Dante placed me in a leather chair, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders even though I wasn't cold. Shock. I was in shock. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but me. He kissed my forehead, quick and possessive. I'll be back by morning. And then what? He paused at the door, looked back at me with eyes that held promises and threats in equal measure. Then you decide if you can live in my world. If you can let me keep you safe, keep you close, keep you mine. His voice dropped. Or if you'd rather go back to being invisible, knowing that people want you dead because of me. The door closed. Locked. Left me alone with monitors showing the city beyond, and the terrifying knowledge that my life had just changed forever. I wrapped my arms around myself, still wearing my mother's funeral dress, and wondered if Dante Moretti was my salvation, or my damnation. Maybe he was both. Dawn came slowly, painting the city in shades of gray and gold. I watched it through the monitors, unable to sleep, unable to think about anything except the sound of glass exploding, and Dante's body covering mine. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the sniper rifle's muzzle flash in my mind, a moment of light that could have ended everything. Someone wanted me dead, The thought still wouldn't settle properly in my brain. I was nobody. Had always been nobody, and now I was somebody worth killing. The door's lock disengaged at 6:47 a.m. Dante entered, and I barely recognized him. His suit was gone, replaced by dark jeans and a black shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows. Blood stained his knuckles. His face was harder than I'd ever seen it, all sharp edges and cold fury barely contained. But when he saw me curled in the chair, still wrapped in his blanket, something in his expression cracked. "You didn't sleep." Not a question. "Neither did you." He crossed to me, knelt, and for a long moment just looked at me like he was checking for damage. Then his hands, those bloody, violent hands, cupped my face with heartbreaking gentleness. "Rossi is dead. So are the 3 men who helped him plan the attack. The sniper is being questioned by people who are very good at making men talk." His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "You're safe now." "For how long?" "Forever." The word was absolute, final. I made it very clear what happens to anyone who even thinks your name. The entire underground knows that touching you means war with me, and nobody wants that war. I should have been horrified. Should have condemned him for the violence, the murder, the casual way he discussed ending lives. Instead, I felt safe for the first time in months. "What about Marcus?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Marcus is alive. For now. He's the one who told Rossi about the dinner, about you being at my penthouse. He didn't know they'd try to kill you, just thought they'd use the information for leverage." His eyes went dark. "He's terrified, begging for mercy, offering everything he knows. Will you kill him?" Silence stretched between us. Outside, the city was waking up. Traffic sounds, distant sirens, the ordinary rhythm of life continuing while mine had shattered completely. "That depends on you," Dante said finally. "On me?" "He was yours once. You loved him, even if that love was built on lies." He stood, paced to the monitors, stared at screens showing armed men patrolling his building. "I won't lie and say I don't want him dead. Every time I think about him sending you roses, touching you, having what should have been mine." His fist clenched. "I want to destroy him slowly, make him suffer for every moment he made you feel invisible." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in my chest. "But you're not a monster who needs to see me prove my loyalty in blood," I said quietly. He turned, studied me with those dark, fathomless eyes. "No. I'm a monster who needs to know you're choosing to stay because you want to, not because you're afraid of what I'll do if you leave. And if I asked you to let Marcus live, then he lives. In exile. Far from this city, from you, from everything he knows. He'll never be allowed to return." Dante crossed back to me, "But he lives." I stood, let the blanket fall, faced him properly. In my funeral dress and bare feet, I should have felt small. Instead, I felt powerful, like my words carried weight they never had before. Let him live. Not because I still love him, but because I don't want his death on my conscience. I met Dante's gaze steadily. I don't want to become someone who chooses violence when there's another option. Something like respect flickered across his features. "You're already braver than most men I know." "I'm terrified." "I know. But you're still standing, still thinking clearly, still seeing me as a man instead of just a monster." His hand rose, fingers threading through my hair. "Do you know how rare that is? How precious?" "Dante, stay with me." The words were raw. Not in the safe room, not hidden away. Stay here, in my home, in my life. Let me give you everything you've never had: safety, comfort, choice. Let me worship you the way you deserve. I barely know you, then know me. Ask me anything. I'll tell you truths I've never spoken aloud. He pulled me closer, until I could feel his heartbeat against my palms. I'll show you the man beneath the monster. And if you still want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll make sure you're protected, set up somewhere safe, ensure you never have to be invisible again. His voice dropped. But God, Sophia, I'm hoping you'll stay. The smart thing would have been to leave. To take his offer of protection and distance and build a normal life somewhere far from bombs and blood and men who killed without hesitation. But when had I ever been smart about the wrong men? 1 week, I heard myself say. Let me stay here for 1 week, get to know you, understand this world. Then I'll decide. Dante's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. 1 week, he agreed. Starting now. The penthouse had 6 bedrooms. Dante gave me the one furthest from his. A space done in soft grays and whites, with a bathroom bigger than my entire apartment, and a closet that echoed when I opened it. The bed was enormous, covered in pillows that smelled like lavender and something expensive I couldn't name. Everything you need is here, he said, opening drawers to show clothes in my size. I had my people bring things this morning. If anything doesn't fit or you don't like it, tell me. We'll get different ones. I stared at cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, jeans that probably cost more than my monthly rent. You bought me a wardrobe before I agreed to stay? I was optimistic. His expression was almost sheepish. And I couldn't stand the thought of you wearing that dress another moment. It's beautiful on you, but it makes you sad. He was right. I could feel my mother's absence in every seam, every thread. There's a main closet down the hall with more formal things, dresses for if we go out, coats, shoes. I guessed your size based on, he paused, on surveillance photos, which sounds worse when I say it aloud. Despite everything, the violence, the fear, the insanity of the situation, I laughed. Actually laughed, and the sound surprised us both. You're insane. Obsessed, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Insane implies irrationality. There's nothing irrational about wanting to keep you safe, comfortable, happy. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me touch the soft fabrics. There's nothing irrational about needing to see you in colors that make your eyes brighter instead of that black that swallows you whole. I pulled out a sweater, deep sapphire blue, soft as a whisper, held it against myself. Dante's expression transformed, softened and heated simultaneously. Perfect, he breathed. Wear that today. Let me see you in something that isn't mourning. And if I want to mourn, my mother died 3 months ago, Dante. I'm supposed to feel however you feel, grieve as long as you need. He crossed to me, took my hands. But let yourself live too. She wouldn't want you frozen in that moment, in that dress, in that pain. She'd want you. His voice roughened. She'd want you to be happy, to be seen, to matter. How did he know exactly what to say? What words would crack the armor I'd built around my grief? I nodded, unable to speak. Good. Now shower, change, and meet me in the kitchen. I'm making breakfast. You cook? His smile was devastating. I'm full of surprises, Sophia. You have a week to discover them all. He made eggs and toast and coffee that tasted like liquid gold. We ate at the island in his kitchen, all marble and steel, with windows showing the city below, and snow still falling in lazy spirals. He'd changed too, into dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that made him look less like a crime lord, and more like a man who could be in a magazine spread. Tell me about your mother, he said, passing me jam. Not the last months, before, when she was happy. So I did. Told him about her laugh, her terrible singing voice, the way she'd dance in the kitchen when her favorite songs played, about how she'd work 3 jobs to keep me fed and clothed and in school, about her dreams of seeing Paris, dreams that died when cancer took root in her bones. Dante listened like every word mattered. Like I mattered. She sounds remarkable. She was. I stared at my coffee. I miss her every day, miss having someone who knew me, who saw me even when the rest of the world didn't. I see you. His hand covered mine. I know it's not the same, can never replace her, but I see you, Sophia. Every detail, every expression, every moment you think you're invisible. I see you then most of all. Why? The question burst out. Why me? You could have anyone. Women who understand your world, who wouldn't need protection, who bore me. His thumb stroked my knuckles. I've had women who wanted my money, my power, my name, never one who looked at me like I was just a man. Never one who made me want to be better than what I am. I don't make you better. I make you possessive and violent and... Human. He smiled. You make me human, Sophia. Make me want things I thought I'd buried. Home, family, someone to come back to who cares if I'm breathing. His grip tightened. You make me want to build something instead of just destroy. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. I need to handle something, business that can't wait. He stood but hesitated. You'll be safe here. Full security, cameras everywhere. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't leave the penthouse. So I'm a prisoner? You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? I threw his earlier words back at him. His smile was quick, appreciative. Read. Explore. The library has over 3,000 books. There's a gym, a theater room, anything you could want. He bent, kissed my forehead. I'll be back by dinner. We'll talk more then. And he was gone, leaving me alone in a gilded cage with coffee cooling in expensive china and questions multiplying like shadows. I explored because I couldn't sit still. Found the library, floor-to-ceiling books, leather chairs, a fireplace, the gym with equipment I didn't know how to use, the theater with a screen bigger than my apartment wall. Every room was perfect, beautiful, and utterly empty of personality beyond expensive taste. Until I found his office. The door was unlocked, either trust or a test. Inside, dark wood and soft lighting, a desk that had seen decades of use, photos on the walls, old black and whites of men in fedoras, newspaper clippings in Italian, a family tree that stretched back generations. And on his desk, in a silver frame, a photo of my mother, young, smiling, holding an infant. Me. A photo I'd never seen before, that she'd never shown me. I picked it up with shaking hands, stared at her face, so happy, so full of life, and felt something inside me break and heal simultaneously. He'd kept this, had framed it, had looked at it enough that I could see fingerprints on the glass. A man obsessed, he'd called himself. A man in love. I was beginning to understand. The penthouse door opened. Voices in the hall. Dante's and another, unfamiliar female. I just want to see off limits. Meet the woman who's turned you into a lovesick fool. I moved to the office door, peered out. A woman stood beside Dante, tall, stunning, wearing designer clothes and confidence like armor. Dark hair swept up, red lips, eyes that assessed everything. Isabella. Dante's voice was warning. Not now. When then? After you've married her? After you've gotten her pregnant? Isabella's laugh was sharp. Oh, don't look so shocked. I know you, Fratello. You don't do anything halfway, brother. She was his sister. She needs time. She needs to understand what she's getting into. The enemies we have, the life we lead, the fact that loving a Moretti means painting a target on your back. Isabella's gaze found mine through the doorway. Sharpened. Ah. There she is. The mouse who caught the lion. I stepped out, chin high, wearing my sapphire sweater like armor. I'm not a mouse. Isabella's smile was all teeth. Isabella Moretti circled me like a predator assessing prey. So you're the waitress who's made my brother forget everything he's ever known about keeping his distance. Her eyes, dark like Dante's but colder, sharper, traveled from my borrowed sweater to my bare feet. Pretty. Fragile. Utterly unsuited for this life. Isabella. Dante's voice carried a warning edge. Enough. No, it's not enough. She turned to him, and I saw genuine concern beneath the hostility. You've known her for what? A week? And you've already put her in a safe room, killed for her, started a war with Rossi's entire network. Do you even hear yourself? I hear myself perfectly. You sound like father. The words dropped like stones. Right before Mother died because someone used her to get to him. Right before we spent years watching him destroy himself with guilt, silence filled the penthouse. Dante's expression went carefully blank, but I saw the flinch, barely there, quickly controlled. That's different, he said quietly. Is it? Isabella crossed her arms. Or are you just repeating history with a new face? I should have stayed silent. Should have let them fight this out between siblings who clearly had decades of history I didn't understand. but I was tired of being talked about like I wasn't there, like I was a problem to be solved instead of a person. I didn't ask for any of this. My voice came out stronger than I felt. Didn't ask to be watched, protected, dragged into a world I don't understand. Didn't ask for someone to try to kill me. I met Isabella's gaze directly. But I'm here now, and maybe I am fragile and unsuited and everything you think. But I'm also not stupid enough to believe I can just walk away and be safe. Isabella's eyebrows rose. So you're staying out of fear? I'm staying because I have nowhere else to go that won't put me in danger. Because your brother made me matter to people who want to hurt him. I glanced at Dante, saw something like pain cross his features. And because despite the insanity, despite everything I should be running from, he's the first person in months who's made me feel like I'm worth protecting. Worth protecting or worth possessing? Isabella asked softly. Maybe both. I wrapped my arms around myself. Maybe that's what I need right now, to be someone's obsession instead of everyone's afterthought. Isabella studied me for a long moment, then turned to Dante. She's honest, at least, and braver than she looks. Her expression softened fractionally. But brave doesn't stop bullets, Fratello. Brave doesn't prevent what happened to Mother. I know. Dante's voice was rough. But I can't... He stopped, jaw working. I can't let her go, Bella. I've tried. Spent 3 months watching from a distance, telling myself it was enough to keep her safe without getting close. Then I saw her in person, and he looked at me, and the raw need in his eyes made my breath catch. It was like breathing for the first time in years. Isabella sighed, long and heavy. You're going to get her killed. I'm going to keep her alive, no matter what it costs, even if it costs you everything else. Even then. The weight of his certainty settled over me like a cloak, warm and suffocating simultaneously. Isabella pulled out her phone, typed something quickly. Fine. Then we do this right. No half measures. She looked at me. Can you shoot? I blinked. What? A gun. Can you shoot one? No, I've never even held. Then you learn. Today. She glanced at Dante. If she's staying in this world, she needs to know how to protect herself. You can't be with her every second, and relying entirely on security is how people die. Dante looked like he wanted to argue, then nodded slowly. You're right. I usually am. Isabella's smile was sharp. Come on, little mouse. Let's see if you have claws. The building had a gun range in the basement. Of course it did, because apparently Dante's entire property was designed for violence and survival. The range was pristine, soundproofed walls, multiple lanes, an arsenal that would make a small military jealous. Isabella handed me ear protection and a small handgun that felt impossibly heavy in my hands. This is a Glock 19, 15 rounds, easy to handle, reliable. She moved behind me, adjusted my grip with impersonal efficiency. You're not trying to be a marksman. You're trying to survive long enough for help to arrive. I don't think I can... You can. Because the alternative is dying while someone else decides your fate. Her voice was matter-of-fact. Aim for center mass. Don't think. Just squeeze the trigger smoothly. The gun will kick. Let it, then bring it back on target. My hands were shaking. Sophia. Dante appeared at my side, his presence solid and grounding. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I stared at the target downrange. A simple paper silhouette. If I'm staying in your world, I need to know how to survive in it. His hand covered mine on the gun, steadying it. Then I'll teach you. Together. We spent 2 hours in that basement. I missed more than I hit at first, flinched at every shot, felt the kick jar my wrists and shoulders. But gradually, slowly, I started to understand the weapon's weight, its rhythm, the way anticipation made me pull instead of squeeze. By the end, I could hit the target. Not perfectly, not quickly, but consistently enough that Isabella nodded approval. Good. Practice every day until it's muscle memory. She took the gun, cleared it with professional ease. Now self-defense, basic escapes if someone grabs you. Bella, Dante started. She needs this, and you know it. So either help or get out. He helped, showed me how to break a wrist hold, how to use an attacker's momentum against them, where to strike to cause maximum pain and create space to run. His hands on me were gentle despite the violent lessons, his voice patient even when I fumbled. "The goal is never to fight," he said, demonstrating a escape for the third time. "The goal is to survive long enough to get away or for backup to arrive. You're not trying to win. You're trying to live." "What if I can't get away?" His expression went dark. "Then you remember what I taught you about the gun. And you don't hesitate." By the time we finished, I was exhausted, muscles aching, mind reeling from information overload. Isabella left with a final warning to practice daily, and suddenly I was alone with Dante in the elevator heading back to the penthouse. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For all of this. The violence, the fear, the fact that you need to learn how to shoot instead of just living." He leaned against the elevator wall, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. "Isabella's right. I'm selfish. Keeping you here, making you part of this world, it's putting you in danger. You're also keeping me alive." "Am I? Or am I just ensuring that when danger comes, you're close enough for me to watch you die?" The elevator doors opened. I stepped out, then turned back to face him. "Your mother. What happened to her?" Pain flickered across his features. "She was kidnapped, held for ransom by a rival family. My father paid, followed every instruction, did everything right." His voice went hollow. "They killed her anyway, sent her body back piece by piece over 3 weeks. Horror closed my throat. "Dante. I was 15. Isabella was 12. We watched our father become a monster trying to avenge her. Watched him wage a war that nearly destroyed our entire organization. He met my eyes. He won. Killed everyone involved, but it didn't bring her back, just made him more brutal, more paranoid, more certain that love was weakness." "Is that what you believe?" "I believed it for years, built walls, kept distance, never let anyone close enough to matter." He stepped out of the elevator, closed the space between us. "Then I saw your photograph and every wall I'd built crumbled. Every lesson my father taught me about emotional distance became irrelevant." His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "You terrify me, Sophia, because I know what happens to people I love. Know the risks, the dangers, the absolute certainty that someone will try to take you from me." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But I can't let you go. Can't go back to the emptiness. So yes, I'm selfish. Yes, I'm putting you in danger, just by wanting you. But I'm also going to do everything in my power to keep you safe, even if it means teaching me to kill." Especially then. I should have been horrified. Should have recognized the toxicity of this obsession, this need, this absolute certainty that we belonged to each other despite barely knowing one another. Instead, I kissed him. Rose on my toes and pressed my lips to his, tasting coffee and something darker, feeling him go absolutely still before his arms came around me like steel bands. The kiss was desperate and gentle simultaneously, his control warring with his need, his desire to consume me fighting against his fear of breaking me. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black. "Sophia, 1 week, you said, to know you, understand your world, decide if I can stay." I kept my hands fisted in his sweater, holding him close. "I'm 3 days in, and I'm starting to understand that you're not the monster everyone thinks. You're just a man who's been hurt so badly that the only way you know how to love is with everything you have. Consequences be damned. And if that love destroys you, then at least I'll have lived first, really lived, not just survived." I smiled, tasted salt from tears I didn't remember shedding. "My mother spent her whole life making herself small to keep me safe, working herself to death so I could have a better future. And what did I do with that gift? Became invisible, chose a man who made me smaller. Stopped dreaming because dreams hurt too much when you can't afford them." I pulled him closer, felt his heart racing against mine. "You make me feel big, Dante, important, worth protecting and wanting and obsessing over. Maybe that's unhealthy. Maybe I should want something healthier, safer, saner." I met his gaze steadily. "But I don't. I want this. Want you. Want to matter so much that someone would burn the world down rather than lose me. His kiss was different this time, harder, deeper, full of promise and possession. When he pulled back, his smile was devastating. 4 more days, he murmured against my lips. Then you decide if you're mine forever. I think I already decided. Tell me anyway. In 4 days. When you've seen more of this life, met more of my world, understood exactly what staying means. His thumb brushed my lower lip. I want you to choose me with full knowledge, Sophia, not because I've seduced you or scared you, or made you feel like you have no other option. And if I still choose you, his smile turned predatory, then I'll make sure you never regret it. That night, I dreamed of my mother. She was young again, healthy, wearing the dress from the photograph in Dante's office. We were in a garden I didn't recognize, surrounded by roses that smelled like summer and home. Minha filha, she said, cupping my face. My daughter. You look happy. I'm terrified. Fear and happiness aren't opposites, meu amor. Sometimes the things that scare us most are the things we need most. She smiled, and it was like sunshine. I worked for his father, saw how these men love, absolutely, obsessively, without reservation. It's dangerous. It's consuming. It's everything I ran from because I wanted safety for you. Did you make the wrong choice? I made the choice I needed to make. Gave you a different life. A different path. Her hands tightened on my face. But you're not me, Sophia. You're stronger, braver, more willing to take risks for what you want. So don't choose safety because you think it's what I'd want. Choose what makes you feel alive, even if it kills me. Even then. Because a short life full of love is better than a long life full of emptiness. She kissed my forehead. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm so glad you're finally being seen. I woke with tears on my face and certainty in my heart. 4 days left to decide, Dante had said, but I already knew my answer. I was staying. The next morning, Dante took me to meet his family, not just Isabella, but the inner circle, the people who kept his organization running, who had pledged their lives to the Moretti name. We drove through the city in his armored SUV, security vehicles flanking us like dark shadows, and I watched the neighborhoods change from glass towers to historic brownstones, to industrial warehouses. They're going to test you, Dante said, his hand warm on my thigh. Try to see if you're weak, if you'll break, if you're worthy of being under my protection. And if they decide I'm not, his smile was cold. Their opinion doesn't matter. You're mine. That's not up for debate. He squeezed gently. But it will be easier for you if they accept you. If they see what I see. Which is? Strength wrapped in softness, steel disguised as silk. He brought my hand to his lips. A woman who survived poverty and loss and betrayal, and still has kindness left inside her. That's rarer than diamonds in my world, Sophia. We pulled up to a restaurant, closed for the day, security posted at every entrance. Inside, the smell of garlic and wine and fresh bread. A long table was set in the back, already filled with people who went silent when we entered. Isabella sat at one end, looking elegant and deadly. Beside her, an older man with silver hair and scars tracing his jaw, Lorenzo, Dante's uncle and consigliere. A woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper jewelry, Carmela, who ran their legitimate businesses. 2 younger men who looked like they could kill with their bare hands, Marco and Giulio, heads of security. And at the far end, a seat left empty. For me. Everyone, Dante said, his hand at the small of my back. This is Sophia Chen. She's under my personal protection. Anyone who threatens her, disrespects her, or even looks at her wrong answers to me directly. The silence was deafening. Then Lorenzo laughed, a sound like gravel shifting. So it's true. The Ice King has finally melted. He stood, crossed to me, and I forced myself not to step back from his scarred, brutal face. Let me see you, girl. I lifted my chin, met his eyes directly. I'm not a girl. I'm 26 years old, and I've survived things that would break most people. His smile was unexpected. Good. We don't need another fragile flower who'll wilt at the first sign of blood. He glanced at Dante. She's got spine. I'll give you that. Carmela was next, circling me with a businesswoman's assessing gaze. You worked at Luminosa. Good tips there? When customers actually noticed I existed? Yes. And now you exist to him, she gestured at Dante. How does that feel? Terrifying, exhilarating, like standing on the edge of a cliff and not knowing if I'll fly or fall. Carmela's laugh was genuine. Honest, too. I like her, Dante. She'll either survive this life or go down in flames. Either way, it'll be interesting to watch. The younger men said nothing, just nodded acknowledgement, but their eyes tracked every movement, assessed every word, calculated threat levels I couldn't begin to understand. We sat. Food appeared. Pasta and wine and dishes I couldn't pronounce. Conversation flowed around me, mixing English and Italian, business and family, violence and love in equal measure. Rossi's network is fractured, Lorenzo said, twirling pasta. The younger brothers are fighting over who takes control. We could move on their territory now, consolidate. No! Dante's voice was firm. We've made our point. Any further action looks like opportunism, not justice. Since when do you care about appearances? Marco asked. Since I have something more important than territory to protect. Dante's hand found mine under the table. We hold our position, strengthen our defenses, make it clear that we responded to an attack, not initiated expansion. You're going soft, Giulio muttered. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Say that again, Dante said quietly. Giulio paled. I just meant... You meant that protecting Sophia makes me weak. That love is a liability, Dante stood, and everyone went silent. Let me be very clear. Sophia doesn't make me soft. She makes me more dangerous. Because now I have something worth killing for. Worth dying for. Worth burning this entire city to the ground for. He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. Anyone who sees her as my weakness is a fool. She's my reason, my purpose, the line I will not let anyone cross. His voice was absolute. So yes, I'm protecting her. Yes, I'm changing how we operate to keep her safe. And if that makes me soft in your eyes, you're welcome to challenge me for leadership. Silence. Then Lorenzo chuckled. Sit down, nephew. No one's challenging you. We're just adjusting to the new reality. He raised his glass. To Sophia. May she survive us all. Everyone drank. I felt the weight of their acceptance. Conditional, suspicious, but real. After lunch, Isabella pulled me aside while the men discussed business. Walk with me. Not a request. We moved to the restaurant's garden, a small courtyard with winter bare trees and stone benches. Isabella lit a cigarette, offered me one. I shook my head. Smart. Terrible habit. She blew smoke into the cold air. They like you. Or at least, they don't hate you. That's about as good as it gets with this family. Should I be grateful? You should be careful. Acceptance today doesn't mean loyalty tomorrow. She studied me through the smoke. How much do you know about what Dante actually does? I know he's involved in illegal activities. That he runs an organization. He runs half the city's underground. Drugs, gambling, protection, smuggling. If it's profitable and illegal, we have a hand in it. Isabella's eyes were hard. He's killed people, Sophia. Not just Rossi. Dozens. Maybe hundreds over the years, sometimes in self-defense, sometimes because they betrayed us. Sometimes just because they were in the way. My stomach churned, but I didn't look away. I know. Do you? Or are you romanticizing it, telling yourself he's not that bad? That he only hurts bad people? That you can change him? She dropped her cigarette, crushed it under her heel. You can't. This is who he is, who we all are. And being with him means accepting that blood washes off his hands before he touches you. Why are you telling me this? Because I love my brother, and I watched our father destroy himself over a woman he couldn't protect. I won't watch Dante do the same. She grabbed my arm. Not hard, but firm. If you're not all in, if you have any doubt, any reservation, any part of you that thinks you might leave, go now. Before he's even more obsessed. Before losing you would actually break him. I pulled my arm free, and if I am all in, then I'll teach you how to survive this world. How to be a Moretti wife without losing yourself completely. How to love a monster without becoming one. Her smile was sad. It's not easy. It's not safe. But if you truly love him, if you're truly willing to accept all of it, the violence, the danger, the absolute insanity of this life, then I'll stand beside you. We'll be sisters, not enemies. I barely know him. You know enough. You know he'd kill for you, die for you, reshape his entire world around you. Isabella's gaze softened fractionally. The question isn't whether you know him. It's whether you trust him. Whether you believe he'll keep you safe even when everything goes to hell. Did I trust him? This man I'd known for days, who'd upended my life, who'd made me feel seen and wanted and terrifyingly important? Yes, I heard myself say. I trust him. Isabella studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Then let's make sure you're ready for what comes next. What came next was a week of intensive training. Every morning, Isabella picked me up and brought me to the underground facility beneath Dante's building. We worked on shooting until my hands stopped shaking at the gun's weight. Practiced self-defense until my body remembered the moves without thinking. Studied the organization's structure, learned faces and names and who could be trusted versus who needed watching. Knowledge is survival, Isabella said, showing me photos of rival families. Know who wants Dante dead. Know who would use you to hurt him. Know the difference between genuine threat and posturing. Every evening, I had dinner with Dante, sometimes in the penthouse, sometimes at restaurants where security cleared rooms before we entered, sometimes at his legitimate businesses where employees treated him with fearful respect. He showed me his world piece by piece, never hiding the darkness but also revealing unexpected light. A children's hospital his money funded, a scholarship program for kids from the neighborhoods he'd grown up in, protection for small businesses being extorted by gangs that didn't answer to him. I'm not a good man, he said one night, watching snow fall over the city, but I try to do some good with the power I have. Try to make sure the people under my protection have better lives than they would otherwise. That doesn't excuse the violence. No, it doesn't. He pulled me against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. Nothing excuses it. I've made my choices, accepted the consequences. All I can do now is try to ensure the people I care about don't pay for my sins. What if they do anyway? What if something happens to me because of you? His arms tightened. Then I'll make the world regret it existed. And then I'll follow you into whatever comes after. Because a life without you isn't one I want to live. The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel precious, irreplaceable, like I mattered in a way I never had before. On the 7th day, Marcus appeared. I was alone in the penthouse, Dante at a business meeting, Isabella running errands, security stationed outside, reading in the library when the intercom buzzed. Miss Chen. The security guard's voice was professional. There's a Marcus Chen in the lobby. Says he needs to speak with you urgently. Should I send him away? My heart stopped. No. Let him up. Mr. Moretti gave specific instructions. I know. But I need to see him. Please. A long pause. I'll escort him up personally. He'll be searched for weapons. 5 minutes later, Marcus stood in the penthouse's foyer looking like a ghost of himself. Thinner, paler, with bruises fading on his jaw and terror in his eyes. Sophia. His voice cracked. Thank God. I wasn't sure they'd let me see you. They shouldn't have. I stayed across the room, arms crossed. Dante said you were in exile, that you weren't allowed back in the city. I leave tomorrow. Forever. But I had to see you first. Had to. He took a step forward. The security guard's hand moved to his weapon. Marcus froze. I'm sorry. For everything. The debts, the lies, selling information about you. I never thought they'd actually try to hurt you. I swear. I never thought. You never thought. The words came out bitter. That's always been your problem, Marcus. You never thought past the next bet, the next fix, the next lie that would buy you time. I know. I'm weak, selfish. Everything you think I am, and worse. Tears tracked down his face, but I loved you. In my own broken way, I loved you. And seeing you with him, seeing you look at him the way you used to look at me, I never looked at you like I look at Dante. The truth of it settled in my chest. I loved who I thought you were, loved the man you pretended to be. But it was always pretend, wasn't it? The whole relationship was built on lies, and his isn't? Marcus's voice turned desperate. You think a mafia boss loves you for real? He's using you, Sophia. You're a possession to him, a trophy. Something to own and control, and something to protect and cherish and see. I cut him off. He knows everything about me, my failures, my fears, my grief. And he still looks at me like I'm the most important person in his world. Can you say the same? Silence. I thought so. I moved to the window, stared out at the city. I forgive you, Marcus, not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry this anger anymore. You were sick, addicted and desperate and drowning. I understand that now. Then come with me. He stepped forward again, ignoring security's warning. We can start over. Somewhere far from here. From Moretti. From all of this. Just you and me and... No. The word was final. I'm staying here. With Dante. In this life that terrifies me and exhilarates me and makes me feel alive for the first time in years. He'll get you killed. Maybe. Or maybe he'll keep me safe while I finally learn to live instead of just survive. I turned to face him. Goodbye, Marcus. I hope you find peace somewhere far from here. I hope you get clean, get help, become the man you always pretended to be. Sophia, goodbye. Security escorted him out. I watched from the window as he was put into a car and driven away. Out of the city, out of my life, forever. When Dante came home an hour later, I was still at the window. I heard Marcus was here. He approached carefully, like I might shatter. Are you okay? I'm perfect. I turned, crossed to him, wrapped my arms around his neck. 7 days are up. Time for my decision. His hands settled on my waist, careful and possessive. And? I'm staying. Not because I'm afraid, not because I have nowhere else to go, but because I choose you, Dante Moretti. Choose this insane, dangerous, absolutely consuming love we're building. I pulled him down, kissed him softly. Choose to be seen and wanted and protected. Choose to matter. His smile was brighter than sunrise. You're mine. Completely. Forever. However long we have. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of promises. When we broke apart, he pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light. Marry me. Not a question. A statement of intent. Be my wife, my partner, my reason for everything. Let me spend the rest of my life keeping you safe and happy and absolutely certain that you're the most important thing in my world. We've known each other a week. I've loved you for 3 months, known I would marry you from the moment I saw your photograph. His hands framed my face. Time doesn't matter, Sophia. What matters is certainty, and I'm absolutely certain you're mine. I should have said no. Should have demanded more time, more sense, more rationality. Instead, I said yes. We married 3 weeks later in a small ceremony at a church his family had used for generations. Isabella stood as my maid of honor. Lorenzo gave me away since I had no father. The ceremony was conducted in Italian and English, binding us together in both languages, both worlds. I wore white, a dress Dante had chosen, simple and elegant, and nothing like the black I'd hidden in for so long. He wore a black suit that made him look like the dangerous man he was. But his eyes when he saw me were soft, reverent. Full of love I was learning to accept. I promised to protect you, he said when it was time for vows. To cherish you. To make sure you never feel invisible again. To love you with everything I am, even the dark parts you probably shouldn't love back. I promised to stay, I said, voice steady despite tears. To trust you. To be your reason when the darkness gets too heavy. To love all of you. The monster and the man, and never ask you to be anything other than who you are. When he kissed me, I tasted hope and promise, and a future I never imagined wanting. The reception was at the penthouse, filled with family and associates who were learning to accept me. Carmela gave me advice about managing Dante's properties. Lorenzo told embarrassing childhood stories. Marco and Giulio pledged their protection as if I were blood. and Isabella pulled me aside, hugged me tight, and whispered, "Welcome to the family, sister. Now let's make sure you survive it." That night, after everyone left, Dante carried me to our bedroom, not the guest room I'd been using, but his private sanctuary. He laid me on sheets that smelled like cedar and gunpowder and him, and loved me with a gentleness that contradicted everything the world thought about him. "Mine," he whispered against my skin. "Forever mine." "Yours," I agreed. However long forever is. 6 months later, I stood in the same garden where Isabella and I had talked about survival. Spring had turned everything green and alive. Roses bloomed in colors my mother would have loved. I touched my stomach, feeling the small swell there, and smiled. Dante appeared behind me, arms encircling my waist, hands covering mine over our growing child. "Happy?" he murmured. Terrified. Fear and happiness aren't opposites. I'd learned that from my mother's ghost, from Isabella's warnings, from 6 months of living in this dangerous world. "No, they're not." He turned me to face him, and the love in his eyes still took my breath away. "But I promise you, Sophia Moretti, our child will grow up safe, protected, absolutely certain they matter, like you made me certain, exactly like that." He kissed me softly. "You gave me everything when you chose to stay. Let me give our child the same gift. A life where they're seen, wanted, cherished beyond measure." I thought about my mother, working herself to death to give me safety. Thought about the invisible woman I'd been, surviving but not living. Thought about the moment Dante had looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered, and I knew. Whatever dangers came, whatever challenges this life held, our child would never feel invisible. They would be protected by a father who would burn the world down to keep them safe. Loved by a mother who understood the difference between surviving and living. Surrounded by a family that valued loyalty above all else. It wasn't the safe, normal life my mother had wanted for me. But it was ours. Real and dangerous and absolutely full of love. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The roses my ex had sent that Christmas Eve were long dead, forgotten, meaningless. But the life Dante and I were building, wild and protective and consuming, was blooming like spring after a long winter. And I had never been happier to be seen.